There are places in this world where the veil between what we understand and what defies explanation grows dangerously thin. The San Luis Valley of southern Colorado is one such place, a landscape already whispered about in circles that study the unexplained. But what occurred on the Clearview Ranch in the autumn of 2023 stands apart even from the valley's notorious history. What Marcus Clearview and his daughter Elena experienced during their brief tenure on that isolated property would challenge everything a decorated Special Forces operator thought he knew about threats, enemies, and the nature of reality itself. The dread etched across Marcus's face was unmistakable as he stood in the pre-dawn darkness, staring down at the impossible scene before him. Sheriff Banning's cruiser cut slowly through the mist, headlights illuminating what no rational mind could accept. His prize Angus bull, positioned at the center of a perfect circle of scorched earth 30 feet in diameter. The massive animal had been surgically mutilated with a precision that seemed beyond human capability, completely drained of blood without a single drop staining the frozen ground. No tracks, no evidence, just the acrid smell of ozone hanging in the October air, and the terrible understanding that their search for peace had delivered them into something far more dangerous than any battlefield Marcus had ever known. September arrived in the San Luis Valley with the kind of crystalline clarity that made Marcus wonder why he'd waited so long to leave the noise behind. The ranch stretched out before them like a promise, 60 acres of high desert grassland framed by distant peaks still crowned with summer snow. Elena had smiled for the first time in months as they unloaded the truck, and that alone made the investment worthwhile. The first week passed in the kind of productive silence Marcus craved. Fence repairs, inventory of the outbuildings, long evening walks where father and daughter talked about anything except the past. At night, the sky revealed layers of stars he'd forgotten existed, unspoiled by city light. It felt, briefly, like redemption. The malfunctions started small. Marcus's tactical watch, a Sunto that had survived 3 deployments without issue, began running backward on the 4th night. He dismissed it as a dead battery until Elena showed him her phone. The clock app displayed impossible times, jumping from 11:47 p.m. to 3:12 a.m. to 8:23 p.m. in random sequence. Her compass spun lazily, never settling on north. Magnetic anomaly, Marcus reasoned, making a note to research the valley's geology. The San Luis Valley sat atop a collapsed volcanic caldera. Interference seemed plausible, but plausibility wore thin as the distortions intensified. The trail cameras Marcus installed to monitor the property line captured only geometric patterns, perfect hexagons of light bleeding across the frames where they should have been. The radio in the kitchen pulled in stations that shouldn't exist, voices speaking in rhythmic pulses that resembled language but registered as pure static on the spectrum analyzer he'd ordered. Elena joked nervously about aliens. Marcus didn't laugh. Then came the lights. 3:47 a.m. Elena shook him awake, her whisper urgent. Through the bedroom window, the valley blazed. Not with dawn. That was still 3 hours away, but with 7 crimson orbs hovering in perfect formation above the western ridge. Each sphere pulsed in synchronization, casting the landscape in the color of old blood. Marcus grabbed his binoculars, his combat instincts flooding back. Through the lenses, the objects remained infuriatingly nonspecific, perfect spheres of luminescence that his mind kept trying to categorize as flares or drones but couldn't quite reconcile. He reached for his camera. The LCD screen showed only white noise. "Dad." Elena's voice trembled. "Just observation," he said, forcing calm into his voice while his pulse hammered. "Probably military exercises from Fort Carson." But Fort Carson was 150 miles north, and military exercises didn't return with atomic precision. The lights appeared again at 3:47 a.m. the next night. And the next. Always 7. Always geometric. Always gone by 4:13 a.m., leaving only the smell of ozone and Marcus's growing certainty that his equipment failures weren't random. They were timed. On the 7th night, he sat ready with 3 cameras, 2 phones, and a notebook. At 3:47 a.m. exactly, the lights appeared. Every device died simultaneously. In the sudden darkness, Marcus heard Elena breathing beside him and understood with cold clarity. Something new they were watching. Elena stopped speaking mid-sentence during their morning fence walk, her hand suddenly gripping Marcus's arm with enough force to hurt. She was staring at the tree line 50 yards distant, her face drained of color. Marcus followed her gaze and felt his trained reflexes falter. The figure stood motionless among the ponderosa pines, 7, perhaps 8 feet tall, with proportions that made his brain reject what his eyes reported. The torso seemed too elongated, the limbs too angular, the head slightly too large for the body. It didn't move, didn't react to their presence, just stood, silhouetted against the morning sun, watching. Marcus's hand instinctively moved to his hip, where his sidearm used to rest. "Get behind me, now." By the time Elena complied and he looked back, the tree line stood empty. No movement, no sound, just the wind through the branches and the hammering of his own pulse. They found the prints 20 minutes later. 6 toes, elongated, pressed into earth so hard-packed that Marcus's own boots barely left impressions. Each track was 14 inches long, sunk 3 inches deep. Whatever made them weighed considerably more than a man and walked on feet designed for something other than human locomotion. Marcus photographed everything with his backup phone, then attempted to cast the prints in plaster. The material wouldn't set properly. It bubbled and separated as though the ground beneath rejected it. That night, the sounds began. Not at 3:47 a.m. with the lights, but hours earlier, around midnight. A deep mechanical thrumming that seemed to rise from beneath the foundation of the house itself. Elena heard it first, pressing her ear to the floor of her bedroom. Marcus joined her, listening to the rhythmic pulse that felt more like industrial machinery than any geological phenomenon he could rationalize. "There's nothing under this house," he said, reviewing the property survey. "No mines, no wells, just bedrock." The thrumming continued for 4 to 7 minutes, then stopped as abruptly as it had started. Marcus installed motion-activated cameras around the perimeter the next day, military-grade units he'd acquired through old contacts. They captured movement that night. Lots of it, but every frame showed only cascading geometric patterns, light forming impossible angles, static that seemed almost structured. Never the source, never the figure Elena had seen. The first dead steer appeared on the 5th morning. Marcus found it in the north pasture, positioned in the center of a circle of scorched grass he hadn't noticed the day before. The animal had been opened with surgical precision, a single incision from throat to pelvis, the internal organs removed with cuts so clean they seemed laser-made, completely exsanguinated. Not a drop of blood on the ground or the animal's hide. No tracks approached the carcass. No disturbance in the morning frost except the circle itself. By the time Sheriff Banning arrived, Marcus had found 2 more cattle in the same condition. Different pastures, same impossible precision, same absence of evidence. 4th owner in 6 years, Banning said quietly, staring at the 3rd carcass. The smart ones don't last 3 months. Marcus met the sheriff's eyes and saw something that terrified him more than the dead cattle: resignation. This man had seen it before and knew exactly what it meant. Marcus spotted the first helicopter on a Tuesday afternoon while repairing the barn door. No markings, No tail numbers, just matte black against the cloudless sky, circling the valley in a pattern he recognized from surveillance operations. His binoculars confirmed what his instincts already knew. Someone was watching the ranch with professional interest. The blacked-out SUVs appeared the next day. 2 of them, parked on the ridge 3 miles east, positioned for optimal sight lines across the property. Marcus grabbed his truck keys. He found them exactly where he expected. Men in civilian clothes that screamed federal operator. Khaki tactical pants. Under Armour polos. Boots too expensive for ranch work. One was glassing the valley with optics that cost more than Marcus's truck. The other monitored a laptop array that looked like signals intelligence gear. Gentlemen. Marcus kept his voice neutral, his hands visible. Mind telling me why you're surveilling my property? The one with the binoculars turned slowly. Mid-30s. Fit. The kind of controlled movement that came from extensive training. Just enjoying the view. Say. Public land. That equipment says otherwise. Marcus nodded at the laptop. I've run enough ops to recognize SIGINT gear when I see it. A pause. The 2 men exchanged glances. The second one closed the laptop carefully. You should go home, Mr. Clearview. It's getting late. It's 2 in the afternoon. Nevertheless. The first man's tone hardened. You and your daughter should stay inside after sunset. We can't protect you out there. The words hit Marcus like cold water. Not won't. Can't. Who are you people? What's happening on my land? But they were already packing up, movements efficient and practiced. The second operative paused at the SUV door, looked back. Something in his expression, maybe sympathy, maybe warning, made Marcus's skin crawl. The previous owners didn't ask questions. They just left. Smart people, Mr. Clearview. The vehicles were gone within 90 seconds, leaving only tire tracks and the sick certainty that Marcus had stumbled into something operational. But whose operation? And were they studying the phenomena or causing it? He drove back to the ranch as sunset painted the valley crimson. Elena was making dinner, trying to maintain normalcy in a situation growing increasingly abnormal. Marcus didn't mention the encounter, didn't want to add to her fate. At 2:17 a.m., Elena's scream brought him running. She stood in the hallway, staring at the living room windows. Every pane was fogged from the inside despite the dry desert air. But it wasn't the condensation that had her backing away. It was the message. Written in perfect block letters across 6 windows, the condensation disturbed by something. Someone inside the house with them. Leave. Marcus checked every room, every closet, every shadow. The doors remained locked from the inside. The windows sealed. No signs of entry. No footprints. Nothing but that single word repeated across glass that shouldn't be fogged. Outside, on the ridge where the SUVs had been, lights flickered. Not the crimson orbs from before. These were portable floods. Equipment. The watchers watching as something invisible invaded his home. Elena gripped his arm. Dad, what's happening? Marcus had no answer. For the first time since Afghanistan, he felt utterly outmatched. Marcus woke to dawn light and frozen grass against his face. He was lying in the center of the scotched circle where they'd found the first bull, wearing only the t-shirt and boxes he'd gone to bed in. His bare feet were cut and bleeding. His watch read 6:23 a.m. The last thing he remembered was checking the locks at 2:15 a.m. 4 hours. Gone. His body had moved, acted, walked nearly half a mile from the house, and his mind retained nothing. Elena found him stumbling back toward the ranch, her relief collapsing into terror when she saw his expression. I don't remember, he said, and heard his voice crack. Elena, I don't remember anything. She'd aged in the night. Dark circles. Hands trembling. I've been seeing things, Dad. When I sleep. Underground places. Chambers so vast they can't exist beneath this valley. And there are things there. Not talking. Not in words. They communicate in patterns, equations, mathematics that makes my brain hurt to remember. Marcus wanted to tell her it was just stress, just dreams, but he'd lost 4 hours and woken in a circle of scorched earth with no memory of how he got there. They found the excavation that afternoon while searching for answers. Behind the barn, hidden by scrub brush, the ground had collapsed inward. Marcus lowered himself into the depression and felt his stomach drop. A tunnel, perfectly circular, 7 feet in diameter. The walls were smooth, impossibly smooth, descending at a 45-degree angle into darkness. He dropped a rock, counted, 6 seconds before it hit something below. "This wasn't here last week," Elena whispered. "Dad, this wasn't here." Marcus made the decision then. They were leaving. Tonight. Now. The truck wouldn't start. Dead battery despite working fine that morning. Elena's car. The same. Every electronic system fried as though hit by an EMP. Marcus's backup radio, his phones, even the old diesel generator. All dead. They were trapped. At 3:47 a.m., the lights came. But this time they didn't hover in the distance. They descended, touching down in the pasture 300 yards from the house. 7 crimson orbs settling onto the earth in perfect formation. Through the window, Marcus watched figures emerge. Some wore flight suits, military-grade, helmets obscuring faces. Human, moving with tactical precision toward the lights. But there were others. Tall, wrong proportions, moving with a grace that seemed to bend physics. The 2 groups met at the edge of the light, not fighting, not communicating in any way Marcus could perceive, just standing, facing each other in what looked like a standoff frozen in amber. Elena gripped his hand. They are not all on the same side. Marcus understood then with terrible clarity. This wasn't an operation. It wasn't a study. It was a conflict. Multiple factions, human and otherwise, converging on his property for reasons that preceded his arrival by millennia. The ranch wasn't his land. It never had been. It was a battlefield, and he and Elena were trapped in the middle. Marcus stepped into the scotched circle at exactly 3:47 a.m., his sidearm drawn despite knowing how useless it would be. If they couldn't leave, couldn't hide, then the only option left was confrontation. 20 years of special forces training had taught him that much. When trapped, you push forward. The air inside the circle felt different, thicker, charged with static that made his skin crawl. The crimson lights pulsed overhead, brighter than ever before. Then the ground beneath his feet seemed to ripple, and reality tore. There was no other word for it. Space folded, opened, revealed something beyond that his mind struggled to process. Not a tunnel, not a portal, a threshold, a place where the membrane between here and somewhere else had worn impossibly thin. Through it, he glimpsed vastness, structures that couldn't exist in 3 dimensions, geometries that hurt to perceive, and the terrible understanding that his ranch sat atop a boundary that had existed long before humans walked this valley. The tall figures weren't invaders. They were guardians, observers standing watch over a crack in reality itself. The military knew, had always known. They weren't studying the phenomena. They were trying to control it, weaponize it, claim something that predated nations and armies by eons. And something else, something vast and patient, was trying to open it wider. Elena's scream shattered his revelation. Marcus ran, reality snapping back into place behind him. He hit the porch at full sprint, crashed through the door. Elena stood frozen in the living room, face to face with one of the tall beings. It didn't move, didn't threaten, just stood, impossibly present in his home, studying his daughter with something that might have been curiosity. "Elena!" Marcus raised his weapon. The being turned its head, too slowly, joints moving at wrong angles, and simply looked at him. Not with menace, with something closer to pity. Then it was gone, not walking away, just ceasing to exist in that space. Elena collapsed. Marcus caught her, checked her pulse, strong and steady, unconscious but breathing. He looked down and felt his heart stop, burned into the wooden floor in symbols that seemed to writhe when he looked directly at them. A message. Not English, not any language he recognized. Ancient markings that he would later learn predated Puebloan civilization by thousands of years, found in caves throughout the San Luis Valley. A warning, perhaps, or a claim of ownership. Dawn broke with agonizing slowness. The lights retreated. The threshold closed. In the sudden stillness, Marcus loaded Elena into the truck, miraculously operational again, and threw essentials into bags with shaking hands. They drove at first light. As they crested the ridge, Marcus looked back one final time. Military convoys were moving in from 3 directions, their vehicles converging on the property like ants on carrion. Above the ranch, the lights were pulsing again, brighter than he'd ever seen them, and the air itself seemed to shimmer with potential. He pulled out his phone. One contact, a journalist he'd worked with in Afghanistan, someone he trusted to handle classified information, someone who wouldn't dismiss what he had to say. The call connected. Marcus took a breath. "I have a story for you. One that will cost me my clearance, maybe my freedom. But some secrets are too dangerous to keep." Behind them, the San Luis Valley blazed crimson. The war for the threshold was far from over, but Marcus Clearview was done being a silent witness to it.